Hey everybody, welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Report for June 2014, brought to you by the REMAX YourOrlando.com team. Have an interesting month, some interesting developments. This month we saw, an additional increase in inventory, and we saw spikes in foreclosures as well. So. With that, we'll get into it, and let's take a quick look at some charts here. I just want to point out some of the charts that. Hey everybody, welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Report for June 2014. Who is that? To you by the REMAX YourOrlando.com team. Have an interesting month, some interesting developments. Whoa! This month we saw, Brandon, do you have another browser open? Inventory and. Do we have another browser open or something?
Not me.
Okay. Well, that was kind of weird. But anyway, so I'm gonna look at some charts here real quick. And first thing I want to look at is our inventory. Can you guys see that? Okay.
Mhm.
You guys all see the inventory chart?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you look since May of 2013, I mean, there's been a pretty significant increase in inventory. Right now we're up to 12,733 listings. So that's a pretty good jump in inventory. And moving along, we see pending home sales. If you look, back in 2012 in May, we had 12,000 pending home sales back in 2012 in May, and if you go down to 2013, we had 10,438, and then this year, it slipped to 8,409. So, and then on sold homes, May over May over May, we started out 2012, we had 3175. We went up quite a bit last year. Had 3,500 sales, but this year was pretty strong as well at 3,313. Does everybody see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bill, can you actually open up the window?
What
I'm seeing is like your
icons.
Your icons. Yes, thank you.
The actual file.
You guys can't see the actual.
No. Which window are you sharing?
Let me try it again. How about now?
No, we got you.
That? You still can only see the icons?
No. Right now we're seeing you. We're not seeing your screen share. Because it should look.
How about now?
The icons.
Black. Now it's just showing the icons, Bill.
I don't know why it's doing that. I mean, it should be. I have the whole thing displayed. Let me try this way then.
That may work.
How about that?
There you go.
That's perfect.
Okay.
There you go.
All righty. Well, we're going to get this thing sorted out. So since you couldn't see that, I'll run through quickly again. Anyway, back in May 2013, or actually March, we had an inventory low. But since then, I mean, it's pretty much it's been a steady increase in inventory, and now we're settling out at 12,733 listings, and and then pending home sales, homes under contract. Looking over the past 3 years, we had 12,000 homes under contract. 2013, it went down, and then 2014, it went down again. That's the month we just completed there, and that's concerning to me because that basically means we just have fewer homes under contract, fewer purchases, or closings, in the pipeline. And with that being said, we look at the actual solds, and going back to past years, May we had 31.75. Last year we had 35.34, and then 2014 we had 33.13. So actually we have pretty good closings. Pretty good number of closings. So that looks pretty good, but it's a little concerning because when you look at the pendings, that's gonna affect us at some point, on the closing side. With that being said, looking at median home price, I mean, things could not be better. And when you go back to 2012 in May, 119,000. Then last year in May it went up to 145, and now here we are in May 2014 up at 165. So that looks very promising on that front. You guys have me back, okay? So anyway, on that, on the numbers, I kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the numbers. And keep in mind, our numbers are a little bit different than the Orlando Regional Realtor Association, because our numbers are directly from the MLS, and for whatever reason, ORA, or the Orlando Realtor Report, they do not count outside the board transaction. So if it's an agent from Miami or whatever, they don't count those. So there's a slight variation there. So with that being said, I'm going to go around the the round table here and get your guys thoughts on that. So first I'll introduce Alex Arribas. He's our listing manager extraordinaire. And Alex, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, obviously for sellers, it's becoming more difficult, it appears, to get the home sold, just because inventory is going up. Obviously, it's around a little over 12,000, you said, or climbing up to 13,000. But with the fact that there's that many more homes out in the market, we're probably looking at, the theory is that maybe some of these homes that are listed for sale are not quite priced correctly, or quality homes that are ready to move in. They need quite a bit of work. So for sellers, that's something to consider. So it's still very doable. Obviously, you can get your home sold. You just got to go with the right agent, and we're the ones for that job.
Gotcha. And Brandon, what are your thoughts on the numbers? Any wisdom you can share?
I agree with Alex. Is even though you've seen inventory increase, the quality of the homes is not solid. Let's put it that way. And looking, as we were discussing earlier, looking at some of the numbers, part of the reason for that is if you look at the overall inventory that is out there, foreclosures are up. The number of foreclosure listings are up 101% over last year. And what that means is that even though there's more houses on the market, a lot of these foreclosures need a lot of work.
Right.
And in pricing wise, what we're seeing though is that the owners, even the banks, with these foreclosures, with these REOs, they're still asking for top dollar on the homes. And a lot of my buyers are not making the decision because they're looking at homes and saying, oh, it's listed here at $200,000. It's probably going to appraise at $200,000, but I'm going to need to come in with another $20,000 to bring it up to par. A lot of the foreclosures have been sitting for 2 or 3 years. And I know, James, one thing that is out there is the 203K plan and some other renovation programs, but it's tough to present those programs to your buyers if you don't have the room in the value of the home. That's because they're great programs, but it's difficult to present those, even though you want to.
Yeah, my apologies. Forgot to introduce Brendan Rendo. He is our #1 buyer's agent extraordinaire. He works with people all over the world, helping them locate and properties here in Orlando. And he uses some unique tools, and to do that, video sharing and just a host of other things. So thanks for your comments there, Brendan. And with that being said, I want to introduce James. You mentioned the 203K and some other things, and so luckily we have James Nema with us, and James is certainly one of the finest mortgage people in town. Knows knows everything about the mortgage business, and so James, what are your thoughts on the numbers? And why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing, what you're seeing, and what's going on the mortgage side.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Phil. Just to piggyback on what Brendan was saying, I mean, you're absolutely right. We're seeing a lot more foreclosures, bank-owned properties. So you're going to see a lot more properties owned by Fannie Mae, and those are eligible for home path financing. And then you're also going to see homes that are in distress in general that may be eligible for an FHA 203K. There's a couple of interesting factors. I'll touch on home path first. When a home is foreclosed upon and it's backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac if it's home steps, then they own the property and they give you a special financing program that used to be extremely competitive. It used to be like a conventional program, but now it's inevitably you're getting higher rates with it. So even though you get no mortgage insurance and you get no appraisal, so you get a much quicker closing, the rates are higher than a typical conventional. So sometimes anywhere from a quarter to half a point higher. So and they have higher credit requirements for you to qualify. And in most cases, it's either going to be 640 or 660 in order to meet those guidelines, and a bit more restrictive on DTI. With FHA 203K, it's funny. I was taking notes because you're absolutely right. March 2013, that's when you started seeing like all the inventory start going up. April 2013 is when FHA made MI permanent on every loan. So all of a sudden, what used to be a fantastic program in FHA has become kind of one of those, I don't know the word for it. It's the better of two evils.
Two evils?
Yeah, essentially. So they're like, okay, we're going to give you a low rate. We're going to give you much easier terms to qualify by, but now you're going to end up paying MI for the life of the loan. So all of a sudden it's
Hello.
Oh.
Did we lose James?
I think you might have.
Yeah, he froze.
He froze.
Animation.
So Brendan, what are your thoughts on that? I think we lost James. He froze.
Yeah, I agree with him wholeheartedly. Because part of being a buyer's agent is working with their mortgage representative to try and find the best solution. And your cost of your mortgage is more than just the principal and interest. You've got you have the mortgage insurance, which can be a major factor in things. With the FHA going to permanent PMI, it has really turned a lot of people off of the FHA program, especially with rates being as low as they are. Because if you get to that point where you're at an 80% value on your home, the rates, which are historically low, are definitely going to be higher. So is there going to be an advantage to refining down the road? There's really not.
Yeah, hey, Brendan, I wanted to ask you something before we got started here. You mentioned that something that you saw in the, the Orlando market report. Why don't you share? Why don't you share? That, because I was really, specifically the foreclosure increase. I was really interested in that, and wanted you to just talk about that and like how that's affecting what you're doing on the buyer side of things.
Okay. Let me share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Right. This is the main thing we're looking at as a buyer's agent, is you're looking at the inventory, what's available out there. And as you can see, over last year, your inventory is up 50% from last year, which is usually good. Means there's more homes available, and you're hoping that they're quality homes. But once you look inside the numbers, you see normal sales are up 57%, which makes sense because prices are increasing. People want to take advantage of that. But this is the thing I don't like to see. Foreclosures are up 101% over last year.
Mhm.
What that means to my buyers is that the quality of home for the dollar is not as good. And it's very evident when we're going out and I'm preparing showing for a client, is you're seeing a number of REOs and you're going into them, and I'll give you a perfect example. We had one that had a pink kitchen last week, which the house would have been a perfect for a 203K type loan.
Mm-hmm.
But the difficulty was where it was priced. It was a home path home where it was priced at $194,000. Wouldn't leave room after, with the appraisal and the loan requirements.
Gotcha.
Okay, and that's the hard part, because as a buyer you want to feel you're getting a good value for your dollar.
Gotcha.
And they're not feeling that with the foreclosures and the aggressive pricing on the banks right now.
Gotcha.
Well,
good stuff. Hey, we're gonna Alex, I'm gonna come to you in just a second here. But before I do, I want to get back to James. James was making a point, and then we lost him there. But James, you were actually talking about the foreclosures and 203K, and we kind of lost you right there. So Brendan, mentioned a finding that he found in the report about the increase in the number of foreclosures on the market now. So we jumped onto that. But I'd like to come back to you because this kind of all ties in together. And then after James, Alex, I want to get your thoughts and just ask you how this affects the seller side having that foreclosure inventory on the market. Okay, James?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, Brendan, you made great points regarding value for the dollar. So yeah, with the FHA 203K, there's the streamline program and the full program. And it's like you said, everything has to have value in the property. HomePath also has a renovation program, which HomePath will take the value based on whatever they're listing it. I don't know if you've noticed that a lot of HomePath homes have been typically overpriced compared to other homes, even though they're lacking probably everything you can imagine. And that's the beauty of why they have the HomePath program. They're like, okay, we're going to give you this home, no mortgage insurance, no appraisal, because technically they pretty much know it won't appraise. For the condition it's in, it won't appraise for an FHA. It would have issues appraising for a conventional. But I'm sure there will be some sort of remedy in the market, because there always is.
Yeah, the HomePath program was fantastic when it first came out, because it really helped over the past 2 years to recover a lot of the value in the homes, and that's what it originally was designed to do, and it's done it extremely well. I think we're getting to a tipping point though, where the program's got to change a little bit, mold a little bit, because pricing, as you can see, I mean, from the charts that Phil showed, our pricing has been fantastic. In some areas, we're actually back to the 2007 levels before the market went down.
And Brendan, hold that thought for just a minute. I want to get before we move on from foreclosures, I want to get Alex's thoughts on how this is affecting his sellers. So Alex, how is the increase in the number of foreclosures? How is that affecting your sellers, or do you even notice anything at this point?
Yeah, I would say for the sellers out there currently in this market, I know we touched a little bit in our preparation, to guess I pull it back to a more general scope. A lot of times the Miami-Dade / Broward County market is kind of a predictor for what is going to come next here in Orlando area. So the best predictor of the future is past performance or history. So there's a lot of homes down there that are similar scenarios, and it's starting to happen here, where there's plenty of homes out there, but the quality is not necessarily where you want it, and it's not necessarily in a desirable area. So these homes will more than likely not fetch even close to where they're listed, let alone would they appraise, because they're not correctly priced. So with that being said, though, a home, if it's correctly priced, desirable area, I know we touched on it again in our preparation. Brendan provided even one just anecdotal example, and it was a home listed for a day, and it had 30 showings, 12 offers. So if it's in a correct, that's a correct but desirable area, and accurately priced, well priced, and determining pricing is when an educated buyer and educated seller, meet together and see the value on both ends. So that's
Right.
my point on pricing. So for
But
sellers,
you're starting to see a little more competition for buyers is what you're starting to see.
yeah, most definitely. And you're seeing too, I'm trying to think of the correct wording. Basically, you're seeing just more inventory, but the quality is not necessarily there, and the pricing is not necessarily there. So if you
Yeah.
have a great home, move-in ready, or have minimal, renovation needed or rehab needed, in a desirable area, it should still sell rather quickly. Obviously there is still the absorption rate, which is about, I believe, 3.84 months, according to the numbers we have on YourOrlando.com on the blog.
Mhm.
But so it's still leaning towards a seller's market, but I know, we've talked about how it's still the time to jump in and not sit on the sidelines if you're a potential seller. I've talked to several sellers, and, oh, we're going to rent, or, we're going to still think about it. And, the quote unquote, busy months of summer are waning on us. And that's when, a lot of people make those transitions. Families move into different school districts or stay in the same school district for the kids. So all these things need to be considered. And it's not just, so simple as just, putting your house out there on, wherever it may be, whether it's Zillow or Craigslist or something. It's a little very much more complicated than that. So,
Gotcha. Good stuff. So that's interesting. Like Brendan was telling us, and you kind of shared, from a seller's perspective. There is more competition for buyers right now, so it's not as easy as it was on the sellers in the past. But the good news is, a lot of the houses that they're competing, with, and Brendan shared with us, are homes that are in, somewhat disrepair. So if they have a house, or they have the ability to, to get that house right, that's a great thing. Or if they have a great mortgage person, like James, he can, help them navigate, different, programs like the 203K or whatever, to take, some of those homes that are in slight disrepair and move them, or potentially have a great house, because
yeah. And I think a lot of people are still thinking in terms of even a year ago, as far as the market we're in. They still think it's, a seller's market. More homes are, they think more homes are selling or pending, and that, if I put it out there, it's gonna, sell. I know I touched on the 3.84 months for the inventory for absorption rate of a, average home, I guess you could say, for until it, is marketed and sold. The balanced market is more towards the 6 months. So it seems like we're leaning towards, the numbers at least are corresponding to leaning towards more of a buyer's market, that traditional, balanced market of the 6 months.
Good stuff. Well, hey guys, we're starting to run a little low on time here, but I did have one question, and I'm not really sure what the answer is. So I want to throw this out there. Typically when you have more supply of something, and let me go back to these. Let me go back to these charts here. Let's see. Full screen.
I know you're going with this.
Yeah. Can you guys see this chart? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Typically when you have more supply of something, typically it becomes less valuable. That's just simple economics. So, with that being said, what are your thoughts on how do we have so much more inventory now, but when we look at the prices, the prices are significantly higher. And this is kind of a money question. So, wow, what happened there? Just kind of a money question. So I'd like to get James in here, off the to kind of give us some comments. And James, if you would, along with the comments on that, just want to well, I'll tell you what, I'll come back around and we'll wrap up later. But just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different factors to take into consideration. Mm-hmm. Actually, touching on what Alex was speaking about and Brendan about the homes in disrepair, what we're seeing a lot of is investors buying up these properties that have been on the market a while, putting repairs into it, and then putting it back on the market for a markup, sometimes up to $100,000. So they're buying these low-end properties. So it's slowly coming back to that 2004, 2005, that area leading up to the market, boom or crash, whatever you want to call it, where it's pushing up values again. So a lot of people, they don't want to settle for the homes that are out there right now in disrepair. January 1st, there was QM, so they have tighter lending guidelines for how much people can qualify for. So you have same thing that happened before, housing prices going up, people not able to qualify them, and the houses aren't even, the good houses, like Alex was saying, are going off the market, within days, if that. And right now, when Alex was saying whether to sell or not for sellers, when we're looking at what the Fed announcements, they have another announcement tomorrow, but the rates are going to steadily go up regardless. We seen our best rates last year, when they were in the 3 range, and then they just started going up. Now we're seeing new trading levels where everything's going to be between 4 and 5. Even though we had FHA dip below 4 a couple of times this year, things are going to continue to push up. So it's just going to keep pushing us in the same market. It is going to fall back to a buyer's market because people are going to be, or a more even market because people are going to be more discerning about what they want. They're not in a rush to get it. Even though with rates going up, it hasn't really affected people wanting to purchase or not purchase. If somebody needs to buy a home, they're going to buy. But with the way the inventory, I think most of the inventory that's out there right now, and is going to be foreclosed properties that are finally going to be taken possession by the bank, because we're seeing a lot of people who have done bankruptcy or abandoned their properties, and the bank still has not taken title. So you're going to see that kind of truncate and spill over into the market we're seeing now, and that's just going to add to more of the inventory that we're getting out there. I think that's why a lot of people are going towards they're seeing new builders or revamped homes as an ideal situation where they want to purchase.
Gotcha. Good stuff. Okay, well, we want to wrap things up, so I'm going to go around and get your final thoughts. Brendan, can you start us off?
Sure. As a buyer's agent, I think I would say to the sellers, think when you were first purchasing your house. If your home is move-in ready, buyers are going to snap on it, and that's exactly what they want. As everyone else has said, is buyers want to move in, set their furniture down, and let's rock and roll. And there's not, those type of quality homes are few and far between right now, and you will get top dollar. Honestly, I have to say, listen to your listing agent. They're going to make suggestions, and those few suggestions are going to get you your top dollar for your home. The buyers are fully qualified. It's not like before the crash where if they were breathing, we could get them a loan. These are everything is full doc now. I know we mentioned getting back to pricing levels around the 2006 2007 level. The biggest difference, so people don't get nervous, is that the people who are buying homes now have to qualify. They have to be qualified. These aren't these strange programs, negative amortization, anything like that we've seen in the past. These are fully qualified buyers. And I know, James, you're not going to send out a pre-approval letter unless you've got this person fully qualified and have run them through the system. as a buyer's agent, it's very comfortable taking someone out when you've got that full pre-approval letter in your hand.
Great, great. And so, Alex, what are your closing thoughts, and you know, kind of what are you looking to see going forward? Sure. Wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so I'll kind of use the points that they spoke about, you know, James and Brendan spoke about, and build off that. But you know, in closing, keep it brief. I think with the pricing, the fact of it's gone up so much in the last 2 years, I think, you know, a lot of that is, and James obviously can speak to this, is inflation, some of it probably, and just the overall general cost of money. And you know, that has to do obviously with interest rates, and tomorrow we'll know more with that and the Fed. You know, with Brendan, what Brendan said, buyers, and I try to, you know, impart this knowledge, you know, and educate my sellers if they're not aware that a buyer is going to look in that entire area, you know, if they want to live in a certain area, at, you know, the price point and, you know, the specifications of the home, which has got a pool, if it's, you know, a 3-2, if it's this many square feet, this, you know, the age of the home, obviously the you know, is it move-in ready? What we're seeing more and more is that, you know, with listings, with buyers and sellers, it's a convenience factor of being able to, you know, as Brendan put it, come right in and be able to rock and roll, meaning you can live your life normally. You don't have to, you know, you know, have, you know, a 6-month or year type situation where you're doing different things to the home. So if a seller can get their home in that move-in ready state as close to it as possible, it's a, you know, you can get that, cause that home to sell, you can market it and get it, you know, sold for them, obviously. And that's pretty much what we're looking at. I think it's just people are so busy in their day-to-day lives, as everyone is, that you have to, you know, cater to that convenience factor. So that's what I tell my sellers is make the house as move-in ready as possible. And if that means, you know, something as minor as decluttering, or something as major as, you know, putting up a fence, or, you know, sealing off a wall or something, you want to do it because you get your money on it.
Good stuff, Alex, and good stuff, everybody. Well, hey, want to wrap it up and just want to, you know, give you my closing thoughts. Wow, you know, it's just amazing how much inventory we have, and it just seems like, you know, the good homes still continue to sell, especially if they're priced right. You know, so that's you know, that's good news for, you know, I guess reasonable people, you know, and you know, and especially if they have a house that's well maintained. But it does, you know, it is a point of interest for me, you know, seeing the inventory build, because at some point that has to, you know, have an effect on the market. And you know, with what James is telling us about interest rates going up, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. I'm not a big guy that speculates or predicts the future, because, you know, frankly, you know, nobody seems to get that right. But you know, those are two numbers I'm going to be looking at. You know, what's going on with you know, the interest rates, you know, because that's gonna, you know, have an impact, and what is going on with the you know, with the inventory, and then, you know, like Brendan points out, what kind of inventory are we talking about? Is it good inventory, you know, that you know, people want to move in and live in, you know, or is it inventory that's you know, that's beat up, foreclosure inventory? So we're going to wrap it up with that being said. But what I'd like to do, I mean, if you know, I'm sure, you know, we're going to have people that have questions, and we're going to put your contact information in the show notes. But Alex, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you and you know, contact you, beside the show notes, of course?
Yeah.
Alex?
Yeah.
Oh.
Definitely, obviously, take a look at the show notes. But the best way to reach me is by phone or via email. You can 407-493-8207. Again, that's 407-493-8207. Via email, it's pretty simple, Alex ALEX at YourOrlando.com. That's YOUR Orlando.com. So you can also go to my URL on the website, which is YourOrlando.com /Alex. And I'm glad to help you.
Okay, and Brendan, same thing.
Easiest way to get a hold of me is my cell is 407-710-8720. My email is Brendan, BRENDEN, at YourOrlando.com. And my website is YourOrlando.com /Brendan. Love to help you find a new home.
And James, on the mortgage side.
Same thing, cell. You can call or text it. It's 407-970-8175, or my email, james@sgfloans.com. That's Spectrum Global Financial Loans.com.
And you guys have a website with a lot of good information on that as well. What's your URL for that?
It's sgfloans.com. So Sam, Greg, Frank, loans.com. We have all the info on there. You can quick inquiry or contact us. And just the most important thing to remember, the best tool any client has is a really good realtor who knows what they're doing, you know, in this market especially.
Thanks so much, and a great you know, and that great realtor better have a great mortgage person like James, or
yes, they better.
But hey guys, thanks so much, and you know, we'll get this up and you know, posted live. So if you could shoot me over your contact information and you know, something I can put in the show notes. And thanks everybody. Look forward to doing this next month. Have a great day, and you know, thanks from the YourOrlando.com team.
All right, thank you guys.
Right.